you guys very much and take it away.
All right, great. Kimberly, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that you are recording this. Are you set to do that
am.
for us?
I
Okay.
am. I have already started.
All right, great. It looks like we may have a small group tonight, but I appreciate all of you who are here. I know that it is a long day, and so we'll go ahead and get started. Now, my name is Allison Hattaway, and I am the student media advisor and an assistant professor of communication and journalism at Georgia Highlands College. And I have with me Kimberly Wood and Austin Williams, who are two of my students. And we are going to talk to you all tonight about last year, a project that they have been working on in terms of launching a podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to get us started tonight and give you a little bit of kind of background and context about what's been happening. And then Kimberly and Austin are going to actually kind of show you how they handle our podcast, both with getting some audience interaction, hopefully, and putting together an episode while we do the session. And then also show you a little bit about the post-production techniques that they have when it comes to editing. So this is going to be something new for all of us, and hopefully technology will cooperate with us. But we just want to welcome everybody, and I'm not, just want to kind of throw out a disclaimer to get started that we are not experts. This is something that's a relatively new endeavor for all of us, but when this conference was coming up and I started to think about something that I personally was exceptionally proud of when it comes to student work this year, and the fact that we do have this great opportunity for students to showcase their work, I looked back on what I felt like was a pretty impressive accomplishment in a short amount of time in the middle of a pandemic, and wanted to give Austin and Kimberly the opportunity to kind of show you what they've been doing and talk about how well it's been going. So having said that, what I hope is that this might inspire a few people if you've been thinking about working a podcast into your program in some way, if you have been a little apprehensive about it, if you think you can't afford it, if you think your staff is not large enough. We're going to show you what we've done with very little to work with, honestly, in a very short amount of time. And also to encourage you possibly to think about how you could use this in one of your courses. I know that there is a gift session that talks about that tomorrow, so I have a feeling there might be a little bit of overlap, but that's kind of our goal for today. So a little bit of history as when it comes to the last year or so. Basically, it all started with $250 in a dream. And that dream started last fall. In the fall of 2019, I had taken a group of my newspaper students to the Associated Collegiate Press College Media Advisors Conference. They attended, one particular student attended a podcast session, came back really excited and said, "Hey, I know that I'm the photography editor for the newspaper, but I really think we need a podcast and we need to get this in our news organization." And I said, "Okay, well, let's talk." We had a very small, kind of overworked staff as it was, so I was a little apprehensive about it, but we had a very limited budget. But in November, I did what a lot of people do, and I said, what can I do with a couple $100? And I read a lot of Amazon reviews. I went on Amazon. I don't know a whole lot about equipment, but I looked for a starter podcast set and thought, let's test the waters. Let's see if they're really serious about doing this before we invest a lot of money in it, and see what we can do. So I had no sooner purchased the equipment and told the young lady that she could get started. And then as things happen with, especially at two-year programs like ours, she had a change of life situation, and she moved out of state and didn't come back for our spring semester. And so I was left with a dream and $250 worth of equipment and a staff who wanted to do it, but nobody really wanted to take it on because those were my print students for the most part. So That changed actually last year at this conference. If you were here and you attended an interpersonal session that was done with, led by Erica Simpson, one of my colleagues, and 3 of her interpersonal students, you met Georgia and Scout and Carson. And the 2 that are highlighted with the arrows, Carson is the young lady on the left and Scout is the young man on the right. They were students of mine in a survey mass media course, and I was always very impressed by their ability to articulate and debate and process large amounts of information, and they were very outspoken in class. They did a very good job with this particular session that they were in, and so I approached them afterwards and said, I'm not sure if you would be interested in becoming a part of a podcast, but I think you would make great hosts. And so they were definitely intrigued, and we actually carved out some time to have Georgia, the young lady who was also a part of that team, do some photo shoots for promotional photos for them. This is one of them that we used. And I show this one because I think it's very indicative of their personalities. You can see, if you knew Carson, she was very bubbly and kind of, vibrant and very outgoing. We would probably classify her as an extrovert. Scout was a little bit more serious and subdued, and they made a really good team when it came to playing off of each other and in terms of personalities. So they were most definitely on board, but I needed a way to help them plan the actual process in the program. And I had a lot of ideas rolling around in my head and didn't really have a textbook to go by or anything like that. So I found a really great website, and it's thepodcasthost.com. So this was a site that really helped me kind of organize my thoughts and put together a guide to meet with them and to try to get things started. So one of the things that I've done, and that you should find in the shared folder for all of the handouts for the conference, is I've put together a handout guide based on what I found on this website and what we did. So if you're considering doing a podcast program, or maybe if you feel like you have one, but it needs revisiting, or maybe it's been running a little loose and doesn't have a lot of direction, we started with really trying to define, what the podcast was for and why are we doing it. And they really wanted to have a like a news commentary format. And so we kind of defined that early on. We talked about who this program was going to be for, and really tried to talk about a listener profile and a persona. So that way, when they were putting the shows together, they would have that particular type of listener in mind, which was a little hard for us because our audience is very broad and very diverse at a primarily 2-year institution that covers 5 different campuses in the greater Northwest Georgia area. We have students who are dual enrollment students, and we have students who are non-traditional students. So, and then of course you have the greater faculty, staff, community. And so we really had to kind of open that up when we were thinking about the persona and it being a diverse group. We talked about the value proposition, what are they going to get with your show that they wouldn't get somewhere else? And how do we make sure that we're filling that need? Naming the podcast sounds like a small, bullet point on the list, but it took a while to settle on a name. And they, liked the student spin. And because with that news commentary, they did want everybody to be clear on the fact that this would be delivering news, but it would also be a show that was opinionated, but that the opinions were not necessarily the opinions of the newspaper staff that was its sister, news organization, or that it was the opinion of the college. So the student spin is what they landed on. We talked a little bit about how long the episode should be. Is this going to be a short episode like some of your, AJC or USA Today type of podcast that within 5 minutes you get, highlights, or is this going to be more over a longer format or a commuter format? They settled on a commuter format. So our episodes typically run somewhere between 20 and 45 minutes, which is really a long gap. They started out more with the 45-minute, 30 to 45 minutes. I think as Austin and Kimberly will share, they've kind of whittled theirs down to more of the 20-minute range, give or take. And I think that works well for us and for our audience base, and is a little bit more realistic when it comes to editing and timeframes as far as that goes. But these are the types of questions to kind of ask yourself as you walk through, how often will they be released? We ended up with a bi-weekly, every other week roughly one is posted. And, to talk about how to enticingly title things so that way it's accurate and it's descriptive, but it's not simply episode 1 or episode 2. And you'll see a few kind of creative titles that we came up with in some of our episodes. And of course, this was going to be a co-hosted endeavor that allows for some interview opportunity or roundtable discussions at times, but also I would say the majority of the episodes are just co-hosted. So we spent some time kind of working through these things and talking about ways to not necessarily script the show, but to definitely have a solid outline so that way you don't go into it blind and there's been research done. A little bit of, talking into a mic and trying to warm up your voice and always keeping that persona of that listener front and foremost. Trying to think of, who they might be interviewing and everything like that. There's a lot of thought given to the aspect of the editing. And that was a big question. And when we first got started with this, we used GarageBand because that was what was on the computers on campus. That happened to be what Scout and Carson were comfortable with. And it worked for a little while. We have made the switch over to Audition, which is what Kimberly is going to talk about in just a little while. And that was with the shift to doing this remotely, because initially we did not see this as being a remote endeavor. We had the equipment, we had a little booth set up on campus where they were doing the recording and the editing, but because of COVID, that didn't last long. So we had to change gears a little bit. Of course, you'll want to have intro music and ending, outro music, and work around copyright laws as far as that goes. So the handout that I give will have lots of suggestions of different places you can go for some free music that is safe legally. But in our case, Scout happened to play the guitar, so you'll hear our intro music that is actually original and created and recorded for our program, which was wonderful. We were able to get around that way. We also spent quite a bit of time with branding and designing a logo, turning to a staff member who we had on the newspaper staff who was able to create a logo for us. And then had to make some decisions about, hosting. Where would we host this? Where would we primarily upload these files to? And then what services would we push to? And we are still working on building our audience base, but when it came to the hosting platform and directories, we did decide to go with SoundCloud, and that's who we've been using. And it's basically $16 or $17 a month. It doesn't cost us that much. We also have it accessible on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google and Stitcher, and Kim puts files up in a YouTube channel that we have. So it lives in a lot of different places. And we also have a tab of our website for our newspaper that on our website for our newspaper where it can be found as well. So it's been a busy year. There's been a lot going on, and I feel like, a lot has happened considering that their first episode aired on March 4th. And so as you can see from the snapshot here, we said for the title, it's super, meaning Super Tuesday. COVID-19 was definitely, in the news, and everybody was trying to follow it at that time and see what was going on with it. But that was the pilot episode. And then roughly a week later, they did their second episode. The first two were done on campus. But even still, a lot can change in a week. And by the time we actually got this up and loaded, it had been about a week. And then right around this time was when we got the notification that we were not going to be able to be on campus anymore. And so I ran up there and I grabbed all the podcast equipment and I thought, well, maybe, they could use this at home and we could keep recording for a while, because we all thought it would be a week or two, which they did for a few weeks. But then eventually determined that they had to go fully remote because they could not, of course, meet safely with each other. So by the third episode on March 18th, they were fully remote and just kept rolling with it. And so by March 18th, we had social distancing, changing the way we live. And basically what began to happen was that the student spin became a historical narrative, which is, the timing of it all, I think, was perfect. We were just barely positioned to be able to move forward with this. And they did a really great job. And if you go back and look at some of the early episodes and listen to them, you relive it all, basically, of what everybody was going through. So they kept working through the end of the semester. And then it became time for Carson to graduate. Scout had a few summer courses to wrap up, and we needed to hire new people. Now, I should say that Carson and Scout, up to this point, did it for no pay. I had no budget at that point, no money left in the budget. They were doing it for the experience and because they were passionate about it. But by the time we started the fall semester this year, which technically, as you know, budget-wise starts in the summer, I was able to carve out a little bit of money for paid positions for our new staff. And we were able to bring in Kimberly and Austin and Sarah, who's not with us today, but they were the new staff in training. So they even did all of the training remotely. They were never physically together. We used Zoom for everything. So just like we're doing today, this is their playground, basically. They have been creating this podcast using Zoom straight from the beginning for them this summer, and doing all of their meetings and everything remotely, which personally I think is very impressive, considering that we were all figuring it out as we went. And I know a lot of people are probably wondering, well, what's your viewership like, or what are your listeners like, is what I should say. And we're definitely working on promoting and increasing the audience base. I went back and looked. We've put together 23 episodes this year, and we have roughly just under 1,200 plays, which some might look at and think, well, that's not much, or that's, really, really small. I think it's a great starting place, though, and I think we're seeing the listener base increase. And so we're really not doing a tremendous amount yet to promote it. We had this vision of a big launch on campus and lots of excitement and trying to kind of build up to that, and it didn't really happen the way that we wanted it to. So this has all been pretty much just when an episode goes up, we send out an email, try to let everybody know to listen to it. We post it on our website, try to drive traffic to the website so that way we get some traffic with some of our news readers, might put out some social media posts, but this is an area that we're kind of developing and hoping will definitely catch on and maybe kind of relaunch it officially when we all get to be back on campus together soon, hopefully. So that's a little bit about kind of the process that we've gone through in the last year. And I'm going to turn things over now to Kimberly. Oh, well, actually, let me mention one other thing. It's not just about the size of the audience for us, I guess. It's also, of course, about the experience and about the exposure. But it's also about other opportunities that are coming as a result of doing this. So even if your program is not necessarily a big one, what I've realized is that the staff is starting to be invited to do other things on campus. And so recently, Kimberly and the managing editor from the newspaper were invited to interview Andrew Iden, who's the author of March. And they basically had a 1.5 hour personal interview with him and led a wonderful session. And the information and the storytelling and the questions that they asked him were just amazing. We were able to turn it into a news story for the newspaper. And, Kimberly, I think she would be the first to tell you she got some great, experience from that. And now they have also been invited to moderate discussions for a film series that's going to be happening on our campus over the course of the next few months. So suddenly people on campus are looking at them and saying, well, they do a really good job here, so maybe they could help us, and maybe they can, promote. And it's just been, I think, a good show of support across the campus, and it's bringing us together in a lot of different ways. So it has a lot of potential. We're just getting started with it, but this is the point where I was going to turn things over to actually Austin. I think I said Kimberly before, and I apologize. Austin's going to kind of run a podcast episode recording session for us, right, Austin?
Sounds about right.
All right.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Austin Williams. I'm a journalism student at Georgia Highlands at the Cartersville campus. And hopefully I'm going to be able to show you guys how to run through a podcast. Is there a way I can screen share?
I think you should be able to do it now. Is it letting you? Do you have the green button at the bottom?
Okay, yeah, sorry. All right, here we go. All right, so pretty much this is what an outline of our podcast would look like. So pretty much we have our intro, which we usually, one of us, either Kimberly or I will say. And usually we have world news, campus news, and local news. Local news pretty much anywhere near North Georgia or just the state of Georgia in general. World news is just like any like big headline stuff going on throughout the world, or it doesn't have to be big, but mostly stuff this kind of pops out to you. And campus news is any, things that might seem important to people on campus anywhere through the Highlands campuses. So I'm going to run you through a mixture of like local and world news and just try to show you guys what it's like running a podcast. So pretty much this was what I would be looking at trying to start the podcast. So pretty much I think we're ready to go. Before we start though, do we have any volunteers that might want to like actually try to join us in a podcast, kind of be a guest speaker? Is there anybody that would like to join us, me and Kimberly?
I'm going to go ahead and give everybody the ability to unmute themselves at this point. So feel free to volunteer as you will.
All right. Just let me know if anybody wants to join in. And yeah, so I guess I can go ahead and start probably. I'll start with the intro. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Student Spin podcast. Today is February 19th, 2021, and would like to remind everybody that any opinions expressed here are not necessarily those of our sister production, The 6 Mile Post. I am Austin Williams, and I am joined by my great co-host, Kimberly. We are currently attending the 91st Annual Georgia Communications Association Conference. Hopefully, we'll have a few guest speakers joining us soon. And so let's go ahead and get along with the episode. All right, so for our first topic today, we have Georgia teachers traveling to Alabama for coronavirus vaccine, and this is brought to me. I read this article at al.com. It's alabama.com pretty much. And so Alabama, the state of Alabama, opened up vaccination appointments in their state for teachers and school staff who classify as 1B. 1B pretty much is any frontline workers, people who, officers and frontline workers, nurses. It's the people like that. And the state from their health department says that they're receiving up to 60,000 vaccines, the doses of the vaccine per week. And with the vaccines coming in, the Department of Health is actually not counting the people from out of state who received the vaccine. They're not counting out the people from out of state compared to the people in the state. So pretty much this is causing a little bit of a disconnect between the citizens in Alabama and the people coming in to receive the vaccine. And so pretty much I just wanted to ask a few people how they felt about it. Just say you were a citizen from Alabama. Say, Kimberly, how would you feel if you were an Alabama citizen or teacher and, people are coming in from out of state taking a vaccine? Do you feel like it's right for that to happen? Or do you feel like it's okay? Or do you feel like, a state needs to worry about its own state, something like that? How do you feel about it?
Well, I would need a little bit more information simply because it would depend on how many vaccines were available, how many people needed the vaccine within the state, and if we had enough to actually share with citizens from other states. So if that worked out, I would have no problem, especially since, our state, Georgia, is a little bit behind in that, which makes it difficult for teachers and staff of colleges and different things to be able to, they're working with children, and children bring in all kinds of, flu, colds, all of it. And so then we're asking them to be with, in a pandemic with COVID-19 running rampant. And we're taking care of nurses and other frontline workers, but we're not thinking about educators. And so, but I think if I were a citizen of Alabama, I would be okay with it as long as we could first take care of our own citizens.
Yeah, definitely. Teachers, people don't recognize them as frontline workers because they're just as much in front of people as other people are. There's teachers still in schools during the virus, and there's people who are out of it but still need the vaccine. But yeah, I feel like if I was a citizen in Alabama, I feel like I would understand because vaccines right now, if they're not being used and they're past their expiration date, they just get thrown out. And if they're not available to anybody, they just get thrown out. And that's crazy to me because, why would you not try to give it to as many people as you could before throwing them out? But I understand it's like the company who makes it needs the money, stuff like that. But I think it is a good thing that people are able to go out and receive these out of state. So I think it's a good thing, and hopefully more people will be able to take advantage of the opportunity if it is available. I think we have one guest speaker is Alan Dutch, or did you want to say something about
it? Oh, was I prompted to say something?
Oh no, I just saw your Zoom popped up and it looked like you were
no.
Okay. No, if you don't want to say anything, that's completely fine. Sorry about that. All right, so I guess we'll move on to the next topic. So pretty much is the third round of the stimulus bill, the stimulus check running through, Congress. So the stimulus package was approved through the House of Representatives, and the overall goal is to send it through the stimulus. The overall goal is the relief money is to be sent out through late February and early March. I think I read through it to be sent out by the latest is March 14th. And this article is brought to me by kiplinger.com. An eligible person would be able to receive $1,400, an additional $1,400 for each dependent. Again, this is all based off of your tax return and your overall income. And most money will be delivered to each person electronically through their bank accounts. And also people will be able to receive portions of it through their tax return. And so basically, I don't know, Kim, are you eligible for the stimulus check? Because I didn't even receive the last two. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get the third one.
I am. Okay. And I have 3 children that actually qualify as well. I have 4 kids, but my oldest is 19, and I think she's caught in that gap where she doesn't get anything, which is kind of bad for her. But yes, I will qualify for this, and it'll be a nice little help for me, since I'm trying to finish up this semester and graduate, and trying to hang on financially.
Yeah. No, yeah, the economy, economically, this COVID-19 has rocked the state of US and the entire world. It's just crazy how much one thing can, disrupt an entire world, the entire chain. But do you feel like it's enough? Do you feel like it's too little, too much? How do you feel about it?
I have mixed feelings. It is helpful, but at the same time, I look at it mathematically as to we're not raising taxes and where's the money actually coming from? We're just going further and further in debt as a country. So I'm torn. People need help, but at the same time, how are we actually going to pay for this? How far down the road do we kick this before it becomes a real problem for my kids once they're older? So.
Yeah, no, this will definitely help a lot of people, and I hope a lot of people will receive the funds and be able to help their families in need and everything like that. Our country is in so much debt, and this is a bill is going to bring along a few trillion more dollars in debt. So I think it's a good thing. Again, it is tough on the economy since we're probably going to go through a tough recession soon. We're probably going to be hit.
Right.
Gas prices are like at $2.50 right now. It's crazy. I remember when COVID first started, I could get gas for like $1.20, and I didn't think that. I haven't seen those prices in my life. I never thought so. No, yeah, I definitely miss the old gas, but
oh, that's so sweet, because I remember when gas prices were 75 cents. But
yeah. No, I'm not trying to do anything. Sorry if I
no, but $2.50. It's killed me. I drive a truck, and so it's jumped from $40 to almost $60 to fill up my tank. So
yeah, it makes me cringe every time. It hurts.
Yeah.
All right. We'll move on to our next topic. So USG employees will receive $1,000 bonuses. This is brought to us by AJC.com. All right. So the University System of Georgia Chancellor Steve Wrigley said that university and college employees will get the same $1,000 bonus as state employees. 36,000 university system employees who make less than 80,000 will join 57,000 state agency workers in receiving bonuses. The teacher and state employee bonuses are coming from billions of dollars Georgia has received through various federal COVID-19 relief programs. No, this is definitely great for teachers again, because again, they are frontline workers. I think they deserve so much credit than they are ever given. I remember back when 2019, there were so many protests that were happening, teacher protests that were happening throughout the country. So I think this is great for them. I feel like teachers and education workers in general don't get enough credit. They should be paid so much money through what they are put through. And so I definitely am happy for that. How do you feel about it, Kim? Oh, what? Yes, Ms. Hattaway.
I think we might have some people who are ready to make a comment as well about this too. So you might want to open it up for.
Okay. Let me see.
Oh, no, you can go back. We can even, here's the great thing about editing, because even though he went ahead, we can go back and you can comment. You can add anything you want in. I can move stuff around, or we can even have him start again from this segment. And then I just edit out what he just said. So that's the beauty of editing. We have a lot of times where we say way too many times. Or we repeat a phrase several times, and that's the beauty of editing. I will show you very briefly in a few minutes how that can make something go from cringeworthy to really, really good.
No, yeah, me and Kim have moments where we just say alien language, and it's just completely hilarious.
We're like, okay, start over.
So let's take this as an opportunity to show them how do you do that. Let's introduce Dr. Stuglin and see if he has any thoughts on the stimulus package that he'd like to share.
All right, Dr. Stuglin, how do you feel about this third round of stimulus package coming up?
Sorely needed and long time coming. Definitely deserved. And I was actually disappointed because at first in the announcement, the University System of Georgia was explicitly excluded because the USG has to make that decision separately from the legislature. So I was glad to see that they then later decided to extend it to the USG as well. And of course, since you're willing to edit things together, just something to cheer you up about your earlier comments about gas. When gas is really low, that's really, really bad. and we should be scared of that, because it means that nobody's using it, partly. So there's very little commerce going on. That was the reason it dropped so much. So the fact that it's going back up in price is a good sign. It means that economic activity is increasing and getting closer back to normal. So that's good news, even though it hurts at the pump.
All right, thank you for that. Is there anybody else who would like to say anything? I think that might be it. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Suglin. That was a very great insight. I really appreciated that. All right, and so I think we're gonna go back onto the USG employees receive $1,000 bonuses. Okay, so we practically explained it. Kim, how do you feel about it? I feel like it's well deserved. I'm sure you do too.
I do. I absolutely do. Just like with the stimulus check, it's a little late in coming, but I'm glad it's coming. So.
Yeah, I'm very, very grateful that their people are finally being recognized for their hard work, and so thankful for that. All right, and so one of our last segments, we have a good news segment where we pretty much show any good news that seems really. Sorry, this is where I'm messing up right now. Trying to explain something. All right, so this is our good news segment. We explain a topic from around the world that just really makes me happy. Hopefully it'll make you happy. So volunteers in Texas saved thousands of sea turtles from freezing temperatures. The volunteers at Sea Turtle Incorporated Rehabilitation Center and among the local community on South Padre Island on the Gulf have saved more than 4,900 sea turtles from death by cold stunning, an event that causes the turtles to fall into comatose in the water and drops below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Volunteers warm up the turtles in warm water and like small little kiddie pools. And all of the caught turtles are stationed at the Sea Turtle Incorporated Center, storing thousands of sea turtles and rehabilitating them. So there's over like 4,900 sea turtles just sitting in these little kiddie pools being warmed up, but actually they saved them all, and they're an endangered species. So pretty much it's a great thing that's what's happening. And I know Texas, I have family over there. They haven't had power for days and it's freezing cold over there. So it made me very happy to read that, an endangered species that seems like are falling and going extinct left and right. So no, I was very happy when I read that.
I love cedar turtles. I'm all for saving them.
Yeah. All right, and our last segment is we have a song and movie choice. And Kim, do you have a new song or do you have a movie that you've watched recently, a show that you're watching right now?
No, not really. I haven't had time, but I will say one of my favorite movies is The Holiday. With, if you hadn't asked me, I could have told you. Hang on, my brain today. Can't think for the life of me. Jack Black and Kate Winslet, and can't think of the third one. She's blonde, famous actress. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
And then as far as a song, I've had Morgan Wallen's Cover Me Up on repeat. Some people can't listen to music or certain songs over and over and over. I'm one, I can listen to them, the same song for hours on end if it's a really good song. So
yeah, I think Alan was trying to help you with what you were trying to figure out. What was that?
Was it Cameron Diaz?
Yes, it's Cameron Diaz. See?
Okay. I think I've heard of that. Any music, just the, oh wait, you already said something. Sorry, my bad. All right, and so I have a new show, not really new show. I watched it when I was a kid, but it's called Ghost Adventures. I'm kind of bored on Hulu right now, so I found a little ghost show, and so it's really I enjoy the paranormal, and it's really interesting. And it actually freaked me out the other day. I was making a cup of water, and I thought I saw a ghost walk by because the show freaked me out. I was kind of like tense in the moment, and it's just my hair flipped by in my eyeball, and I looked by really fast, and I thought I saw a ghost walking by me, and I literally ran to my room and like hugged my girlfriend. I was like, I think I just saw a ghost, but then I later debunked it. thanks to the show, I learned a little bit of resources that it's just my hair. So I was being a big baby, just scared about my hair. But don't really have any new music, but I've listened to this artist, Frank Ocean. He's an alternative kind of hip hop artist. I really enjoy that type of music. If you listen to the podcast, I pretty much, say alternative music 24/7. So, but I think that's it for both of us. And I thank everybody for pitching in what they had to say about our topics. And I think that's going to do it from us. So thank you guys for letting us be able to show you how we run a podcast. And I think we're going to run it off to Kim for editing.
All righty, so I am going to share my screen really fast. And second. So this is our editing software. This is Adobe Audition. I have about 5 minutes to show you what we do. So first I go over here to File, Open, and then I will scroll down and we have our podcast intro. And I'll open that. And then I have our podcast outro. And so that's our music, our leading in and going out music. And then our latest podcast episode that we did. And so once it's all in, then I go from waveform, which is our single track, to our multi-track. You have to save it. So I'm going to save it as Brandon Story 2. Give it a name. So now we have where we can drag it in. So we have our intro. We have our podcast and we drag it right about here. Just kind of trying to get the music so that it fades in and out. And then our podcast outro. Drop that here. Ooh, sorry. Multi-track. And you just kind of run it down to the end. Ooh. Almost there. Almost. You look at the top of the screen. Ooh. Right about there. And so if you look at the top of the screen, I can then grab this and run it all the way back. And so then we have our fade in and fade out. So I'll click on this one. We're going to fade this one out because we want the music to go out. So you just kind of drag it. And then we go to the end. And we do the same thing here, but we want to fade it in and make it louder as it finishes.
Kim, did you find this program very difficult to work with? Because I know you didn't
It
really
is
have any.
not difficult to work with. It is something that you can find tutorials for easily on YouTube and all over the web. It has videos that you can watch within the program. And it's pretty intuitive. You just kind of figure it out and it's not hard to work with at all. And so then if we're going to edit just really quickly, we're going to go here and click on this. So if you can see right here, you can zoom in on the sound waves and zoom out. So you can go in and make sure that you're getting it right where it needs to go. So we're going to try here. So
welcome to this episode of Georgia Highlands College Student.
So if I want to edit out a part, so as you can tell, we messed up right there. So I'm just going to take it from here.
Hi, welcome.
I drag from here to here. I right click, I hit delete, and it's gone. And so that's how you edit out. And so then you can go from wherever you want to go within the piece.
Sorry.
Does anybody have any questions?
How long do you usually take to edit an episode, Kim, roughly?
It depends, one, on how many times we mess up. The second thing to remember is when you're recording these for editing purposes, you're not trying to do it live. You're definitely going to edit. If you mess up like a big section, go back and just start it over, because then you can just edit that whole big section out, and then you're starting and you have less editing to do. There were people, some people do it by seconds. I know Austin and I tend to do it just more by listening, and then we zoom in on the sound and we isolate it down and kind of go from there. So, but it's a great program to work with.
All right, so I think we're out of time for tonight, but does anybody have any just quick questions before we
Somebody asked how much
off?
does audition cost?
Oh, if you purchase it individually, I think it's fairly costly, but I know that our school does have the ability to give it to our students. We have enough licenses that they have to have it requested by a faculty member to kind of turn it on and give them access, but it is something that our students who are on staff are able to have access to the full Adobe Cloud program suite. And so that's why we shifted to this instead of GarageBand, because that of course was on local computers. And this is not specific to Macs or PCs. Okay, I have a few questions. Have we tried to get this to play instead of music from the video ad boards?
What's the question?
Oh no, I'm a little confused about that.
So real quick, if you want to hear it.
We have all of those TVs around all of our campuses, and they just flip through slides with ads from different things.
Right.
And there's music that plays out of them. I wonder if, not all the time, but every once in a while, they could put one of the podcasts into the rotation so that students walking around would just be able to hear it, like if it was on a broadcast radio station.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We're actually looking at getting some new monitors to go outside of the media suite that we're renovating right now on the Floyd campus. But I think for all of our campuses, that would be a great idea. So I love that. We'll look into that. Anything to help promote it and draw attention to it would be a good idea. And that's kind of where we're focusing, I think, for the next year, is really trying to build that audience base now that they seem to have a system in place and we figured out a format, and they're clearly they have it down at this point. So I don't know, anything else you want to share, Kimberly or Austin, before we get off, about just how your experience has been over the last several months?
I remember our first episode, I was terrified. I think we all were, but it was actually so smooth. Honestly, the first episode compared to the later ones have been, the later ones compared to the first one have been harder when I actually think about it, because you kind of, when I first did it, I was so inclined, I was so in tune, and I didn't want to mess up at all. And I was like, wow, that was good. But now after, it's just like, you kind of just lose like the things that you learned along the way. But no, it's being a podcast host, or co-host and stuff like that. It's not hard at all. If you want to do it, people are going to want to do it. Especially, it was a great opportunity for me, and I'm still planning on doing it for a pretty long time. I really enjoy it. So if you think people want to do it out there, definitely, I'd say I bought this mic for $25 on Amazon, and that's the only thing that I've spent on this podcast. So definitely go out and try it, and just express to anybody if you have an idea for it. Just do it. It's great. I love it.
Great. And they're building a wonderful portfolio, and it all started with $250 and a dream, and we pay $17 a month to SoundCloud and some work steady pay. And I think, it's been a pretty good year as far as starting a new program goes, especially in the middle of a pandemic. So, but thanks so much for everybody's attendance and for your interest, and we hope you all have a great night.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. That was very, very helpful, very useful, and I appreciate that. So now at this time, we are going to move to what is listed as our GCA cocktail hour. So